Welcome back to Have You Heard, the social media podcast by us here at The Social Shepherd, where we tell you everything you need to know about social if you work in digital for the week ahead. My name is Zoe, and today I'm joined by
Jack,
Adam.
lovely to meet you all.
So for those who don't know, we are The Social Shepherd. We are a global social media agency with offices in both the UK and the US. Adam heads up our strategy team and is also heavily involved with the creative side of things. And Jack.
And I'm managing director here at the Social Shepherd for the UK division.
Lovely. Fabulous. Well, thank you both for joining. So we're going to get straight stuck into our industry updates of the week. We've got platforms doing a lot of things. And I actually was in London yesterday and had a meeting with TikTok, so I poked them on some of these bits that have come out. So
I'm intrigued.
Tell you guys what they said. But actually, if we kick off with Instagram, that's probably the best place to start. So they have announced that longer reels diminish your performance. So reels over the length of 90 seconds, you're probably going to get worse performance, which is interesting because a couple of years ago, they went through this huge phase of trying to push long form on the content, and they upped the length of content that you could do, I think, to 3 minutes initially, and then it went up to 10 minutes at one point.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they're coming out and just saying it's not working on the platform. I also spoke to our organic social team and asked them what they're seeing as optimal length, and they're really pushing for clients to post sort of between 7 and 15 seconds, depending on the idea. So I mean, we kind of already knew that longer reels don't perform, so it's not really a shock, but it's interesting that the platform are actually not admitting that as well, because the reps love to push their best practice, which is longer reels are going to do well. So what do you guys
think? It came
think?
from that presentation, didn't
Yeah.
it? Like someone's taken a screenshot almost behind the scenes of what they're sort of leaking, the updates. But some of the updates were like everyone already knows that already. But obviously this one was the key bit that we took from
there's
it.
one interesting thing that was on that screenshot was that posting on Instagram at the same time as you post across all your other
That's right.
platforms. So mass posting is actually a really good strategy.
At the same time.
So
every
post on
channel.
TikTok at 10 o'clock, post on Instagram at 10 o'clock, post on X at 10 o'clock, because it's like mass interest basically. And we've actually seen that work for us whenever we've done it as well. So that's an interesting one to sort of look at. But any thoughts on reel length? Any audience insights?
I mean, I suppose it also depends on what they're judging it based on, like why it's not working. Because obviously, obviously there's a behavioural side to this all, right? Like if a platform comes out and is pushing its short, snappy, snackable content over, what's Instagram 10 years old, isn't it? 10 years old.
Yeah.
You're pretty comfortable with that, and obviously mobile in general. Just going, oh, you've now got 3 minutes. It's not just a quick change. Like there's a massive behavioural shift that needs to happen there. But also maybe, I don't know the criteria of why it's not working, because it potentially opens the door up just to lazy creative, which is like when someone said you've got 90 seconds, you work really hard to make it 90 seconds or to conform to the platform. Whereas if all of a sudden I go, oh, but you've got 3 minutes, oh, don't worry about cutting it down. We'll just put that bit extra in. And then all of a sudden you do lose that incentive to make it engaging. So if people are trying longer form, there's potential of the approach that they're taking, which is like, oh, now I've just got 3 minutes and you don't necessarily need it, but because it's there, they're just using it. And that so it's often really hard to tell what the criteria, because the mass might be, yes, long form isn't working, but actually there may be some longer form, really well engaged, really good pieces of content that live outside of that, especially if you look at your niches. You're like, I think Sky Sports and channels like that are really great, because especially with the overlap, and obviously that has become such a big thing for them on their social channels, they do have sometimes like 3 or 4 minute piece of content. And a lot of people sit and watch that whole thing, because it's almost like a mini podcast. Whereas you can tell outside of that, if it's just brands just doing generalist stuff, there may be a dip across the board, but you can kind of understand why.
I think it's like when we compare, like why will people's attention span last on a YouTube video but not last on a reel or a TikTok? And so like TikTok is now actually pushing the longer form content, which they topsy-turvy each other all the time. But the longer form content that does perform on Reels and TikTok, which is very far and few, but it is reminiscent of your YouTube videos. It's not a 3 minute long, like quick reel that talks about this and you just extended it. Like it's actually got like a story to it. It's like episodic almost.
I think it's like a state of mind when when I go to YouTube or someone goes to YouTube, they're understanding that they're going for longer form content as well. Whereas TikTok, you're in a state of mind to sort of get that quick buzz from that short form content and hit, I guess, social hit that you do get from when you keep scrolling down. I think it's that state of mind what each channel should have. I feel like it should own a space in terms of like content length and what you expect to receive from that that channel.
Like the purpose of each platform. So we go to Instagram. Like to me, I think Instagram is it's more of a community channel now because you follow your friends. People post on there more regularly, whereas on TikTok, it's that short-term, quick dopamine hit from that type of content. And then YouTube, when you go onto YouTube, like, you're going to be there for 45 minutes. You're not logging on there for just a quick scroll. And so is there something in that?
Yeah, I think you could, I was looking at this the other week about the transition of like, one of the big things I've noticed is channels in that way of what you're saying. TikTok very much like, you can see it when people go away on holiday or whatever it is. They'll do like a 30-second wrap. Like this was the highlights. It's really quick because like you're saying, it's really snackable. Whereas on Instagram, I think there's longer bits because you're almost tracking your entire week there. So you might post every day or do a couple of stories here and there. You're creating a bit more of a book and a narrative as opposed to at the end, TikTok is just, here's my week, all the fun bits wrapped together. So like you're saying, you've already got that role of why I'm looking at what content I'm expecting.
Like more people will say, I have a personal presence on Instagram. And then will diminish as we go further on. So Instagram, the majority of people will have some level of a personal presence on there.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok kind of bridges the gap between, so we've got YouTube over here, which has quite a high barrier to entry. Like to start filming your day-to-day life and vlogging your day-to-day life is quite a lot for most people to do. You've got to have a lot of confidence. But TikTok creates this little boundary in the middle where it's not as like far out of your comfort zone to create a little like roundup of my holiday type thing. And that, I think people get quite shy whenever they publish stuff about themselves. And like we had it, we took the team for dinner last night and we were talking about posting content and how like when you work in social and you post your own content, it can be really embarrassing if it doesn't perform well because you feel like people are looking at you being like, why did that only get 500 views on TikTok? But you can't judge a social media professional on the status of their personal account. That doesn't make any sense.
Or one piece of content.
Exactly.
No.
Like it's not like to have good content, you have to have, talent that's confident in that. And that doesn't come to everyone sort of naturally. People always say the people that end up working in social are people that either wanted to be in the entertainment industry or wanted to be vloggers themselves.
But you're also in it every day, so it's really hard because you are judging it on a higher criteria. Because technically, you're almost setting a higher barrier to entry, right? Because all the things that you should be doing, and then it is almost like TikTok becomes like doing a YouTube video to the normal person because you're like, oh God, I've got to do this. We know that this works, that works, this works. You've got to get that and. So by the time you've been through that list, you're probably a bit like, what's the point? I can't be bothered.
It's tiresome. Like I like the fair play to content creators, like churning out videos all the time and like putting like your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Like it takes time, and sometimes I don't think people like give people the respect they deserve for that kind of work.
Especially good creators. I think the other thing as well on that is, you were talking about it the other day, Jack, in terms of like attention spans. There's a massive shift outside of social as well about how they create films and TV shows. And I've seen so much of this over the last few weeks coming from like podcasts and people just talking about it. And there's when a writer, a script writer and production houses put scripts for TV shows, what would have been like great detective shows or things like that together, and they send them to production houses or to be reviewed, a lot of the time the feedback is, this is amazing, but it's not second screenable meaning it's too you need too much focus to understand what's going on, because people are sat there watching a crime thriller series whilst on TikTok, or whatever it is. So you've got a massive behavioral shift across the board that you're competing with. So if my downtime is spent watching, you know, a TV series, I'm also catching up on the day. I don't have an attention span for both of them. So 90 to the original point of like 90 seconds being the optimum, I don't even have that, because I'm trying to take in what's going on. And that's sometimes, again, reflective of why simplicity of the TV show is, I understand what's going on. Every episode is pretty much the same. It's just repeating. There's one little twist at the end which keeps me hooked. And then I'm scrolling being like, 8 seconds, not yet, cool, next. Because I'm not really paying attention either.
Do you think our like brains and like crave for this like sort of like, it is a dopamine hit that you get whenever you go through that on your own socials? Do you think we've like killed our brain's capability to like
100%.
intake true art and like true, like, you know, just like what would traditionally be a film, as you said? And like, are we...
I think it's unfair to say true art, because what people are still creating requires extreme talent and art to do. But I do think it's definitely altered our brains and what 500 years looks like in our brains. If you did a scan today versus a scan then versus a scan maybe even just 100 years ago, would look so different.
Well, fun.
But we're not doctors, so we're not going to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is our update with a mild digression. Another one from Instagram is they have launched they're testing out more about the peak feature, which is where you can send an image to someone and they can see it once and it's gone. You can't edit it. You can't put any filters on it. It's very Snapchat.
Be real.
Be real, yeah.
I was thinking when I saw it, it looked like a Be Real feature, but there's no prompt to do it every 24 hours. But I think the benefit of a feature like this on a platform like Instagram versus Be Real is that you go to Instagram anyway on a daily basis, or a large majority of people do. So the actual feature itself will be potentially more sticky than a Be Real, where Be Real you were going for just one feature only, whereas Instagram there's a plethora of different features. And it's another sort of added feature which further sort of emphasizes on the fact that a lot of things are going to DM, private messages on the platform, and stories. That is where a lot of usage happens. It's going more and more that way. I
do think it'd be cool though if they did do the timer thing, because I think it would really increase authenticity on the platform. Like, people still kind of look at Instagram as like it's Instagram versus reality, whereas if we could add that little snippet of like additional reality in there, it'd be quite nice.
I think people want to see non-reality.
They want to be inspired.
Yeah, I think they want a glimpse into that perfection. I think that's why people...
But then if you look at TikTok, like that's the complete opposite. Like that's not happening on there.
No, I know. I just imagine if Instagram though was full of just Be Real based like photos, you just wouldn't go to it. You're looking for that escapism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
TikTok tried this though, and then they had to take it off, didn't they? Because it didn't work.
Exactly. So we'll have to.
But would that have been no, because TikTok is video first, really? So if all of a sudden you're adding photos, whereas Instagram is the other way around. Started, it was just, like I say, it's more visual photography you can get.
It has a better time because the DM functionality and how people communicate on that platform is different. Like, you don't have conversations with your friends on TikTok. No. You send them a TikTok and then you hit the laughing emoji on it. Like, you don't speak. Whereas like I actually will have full-blown conversations with people on Instagram. So I think you're right that it has more chance of success on that platform than on TikTok.
It's very early days in terms of that feature. I saw it was a Twitter screenshot of a person that's an app specialist.
I was interested to know what people do with it, because I've mentioned before, I have the glamour and the joy of getting a bus into the office every day, and the time I get it normally is packed with the school kids, and they're always on Snapchat, but they just take pictures of their feet. Like when you watch, and I don't understand what this.
Yeah, but they're sending each other messages.
Yeah, but is
or
it
like
the
a
same?
blank surface. where
Yeah,
there's an
it's
easy
just like a
background to
really
write
quick,
over.
like they'll look at it's really quick and then it's sent. No text, no editing, no nothing. And I'm like, this is
What, I don't use WhatsApp.
yeah.
Right.
It's so weird. So maybe people would just, I don't know,
I
up a
think
thigh.
with like, yeah, because, sort of under the ages of, 20, everyone's using Snapchat where we would use WhatsApp.
Yeah.
But
We're just
I
boomers
just think
now.
they like make themselves like it's more difficult to use Snapchat to send a message. Like you've got to like save all your messages. It's just a nightmare. I don't understand. Why are you making your lives difficult, Gen
No.
Z?
Yeah. I don't understand it.
Oh,
But I
okay.
don't understand a lot of things because I only sort of clocked on
A
again. that-
boomer in a millennial's body.
Yeah, exactly. But I only cottoned on to the fact the other day that WhatsApp still has stories on it. I was like, well, I thought they would have got rid of that. But there's so many platforms that
No
just
one
have these
uses
little
it.
things on, and you're like, why is
Oh
it
my
still
god!
there?
Do you know what is actually happening? So the same amount of pokes are happening on Facebook now as they were happening 10 years ago. People are still poking each other.
Okay.
I love that feature.
Why don't I wouldn't even know where to find it on
I don't know
on
anymore.
Facebook anymore.
So
But yeah,
good.
Madness.
pokes live on.
The poke is back.
There is one other final update, which is very short. So the creators account on Instagram have started an interview series where Adam Mosseri, head of Instagram,
Very cool.
interviews creators. It's shot beautifully. It's really, really cool. And I really like the fact that he is so vocal as like the head of that company, really open, talks about things. I think he practices what he preaches in terms of what he expects from people on the platform. And I think it's quite nice. But yeah, it's a really cool feature and hopefully encourages people.
Yeah, just good advice. Hearing it from people that have, seen success as a creator themselves, but also hear their journey. I was listening to a bit of it, hearing their journey of where they've come from to where they are today is always inspiring.
What do they I've not seen this. What are they qualifying as like a creator? Is it like a thoroughbred, pure?
The person I watched had 2 million followers.
Right.
So I think the word creator now, influence is sort of diminishing as a word, and I think creator is really overtaking.
Yeah, I think it's like the smaller you can be a creator and not an influencer, but you can be a creator. Every influencer is a creator. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you could be a videographer that creates for brands but doesn't have an influence behind them, whereas creators.
Yeah, I suppose it's interesting how they use that to promote the type of creator or whatever you want on the platform. Because if it's pure, I built my audience through Instagram, like traditional, the OG influencers that were like, this is my values, this is my story, this is my offering, people bought into that. Or are they just going, oh, you were on Love Island and have followers, come and talk to me about
No, it's like true
that's
creators.
So that's I think that's a really great move by them to being like, we're actually really defining what this platform is.
This particular person was on it from 2011.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's like really supporting like the grind of people that have been doing this for a long time and like getting behind it. And like, I think it's really, really good.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, TikTok time. So you can now do collab posts on TikTok, which I think
stealing features.
But I think this is a really good feature because like all the stuff that TikTok is like coming out with at the minute, okay, yes, they're reminiscent of other platforms, a lot of them, but it like helps legitimize the platform and how marketers use it, because it is really difficult to manage influencer partnerships, particularly on TikTok at the minute, and the value that they really bring, because you don't want to be publishing. We had Lucy on a couple of weeks ago and she said that so many people just go, oh, well, the influencer will post it on their account and then the next day I'll post it on our account. And we're like, well, that's silly. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
But now that you have collab posts, that takes away that issue that people have had thus far.
Is it going to appear on let's say an influencer collaboration like that? Will it appear on the brand's feed
yes,
as well as? Cool.
Yeah. And we've been seeing, we've really been pushing, even global brands that we work with, where they have like global headquarters and they have localized teams, and the global headquarters will create assets that need to be posted by the localized teams. There's still so many brands doing it where they might have like 20 different local regions with separate accounts, for example, and they're all posting the same asset.
Yeah.
And then, but the algorithms don't like duplicate content. We know that. And so it's basically a race to say who can post it first, because that is going to get the best results. Whereas if we can do a collab post, for example, and we can tag in all of those different ones, it's going out to all of those markets. And it also helps legitimize that brand as a global brand as well, because it's coming from that account.
Yeah.
So big fan of that feature update. And then another update from TikTok is AI search results within their search results, basically. So they've tested this a few times. So TikTok have tested having Google search results come up in the app. They've tested Wikipedia coming up in app. And basically what it is when you type in a search query into the search bar, a little thing will come up and say AI search highlights, and it will be text that comes up underneath it. So it's in conjunction with ChatGPT, so it's all text-based at the minute, and then the TikTok search results come in underneath. It's not available for all search queries at the minute because AI is not there yet. But I guess what it does say is like TikTok are really, really leaning into this searchability element of the platform, and that's what they're really focusing on.
I think they look at Google and go, wow, they are like one of the biggest companies in the world. They have the highest revenue per employee in the world. What an unbelievable business. It's based on search intent. That's how people, use the internet for a lot of the case. And if they can dominate social, content and search, I can see, you could see them being one of the biggest companies in the world.
But what from like a perspective of how it works, that if I'm using TikTok as a search engine, I feel like for me the value is searching and getting a video.
You'll get both still,
but still though, having then like the text or because the example I've seen is like you search for a recipe.
Yeah,
there's a load of videos, but then you also get a written recipe. And
that's quite helpful though. Do you not think?
Well, I suppose that's the question. Like if I'm using it for search because then I want the video, or is the long term that they are sort of an all-in-one platform where it's I can see it both sides, but I feel is it not?
So because the example that we can see on this document that we've all looked at is the chia seed pudding recipes. And the one thing so I think it's helpful to have the text there in that instance because you need text to follow a recipe. But the one thing that is confusing is obviously that is one recipe that you're getting from ChatGPT, but all the videos underneath could be a completely different recipe. And I think I see what they're trying to do, but at the same time, would it not be better for them to have a feature that can actually scan the video that's being shown and then give you a text summary off that video or something of that nature? Because there's a bit of like a misalignment with this text is coming from a different source and these videos are coming from creators, and there's a lack of alignment between them.
I guess a lot of particularly recipe videos, most creators will add the recipe details in the caption. And whether AI is capable, it's not capable of identifying that exact product in that recipe and then putting that out. I think it's just proof again that they're wanting to be a dominant player in search and increase stickiness, increase younger demographic of how they're searching, and ensure they keep using TikTok rather than maybe going off platform.
So I went for tea with TikTok yesterday.
Give us all the tea.
I had a lemon and ginger tea at TikTok. So I was pestering them about search and how we can measure search volumes on TikTok because that's not available for marketers at the minute. We can't get access to that data. There's a lot that we can get access to from a paid perspective, but we can't get access to those search volumes. And I was saying to them, like, this is getting really frustrating because it's really difficult for us to do trend predictions. We can't listen on the platform. We can't analyze conversation very well. And, we've got a lot of clients coming to us saying we want to use social to map trend predictions so we can, it can impact our NPD, for example, and stuff like that. So I was basically saying to them, like, help us help you. We'll work together and come up with a measurement system that can help us do that. So we're trying to work with them at the minute on that. But I was just saying to them, I can see what you guys are trying to do, but we've got to take into consideration all of the data that we can get on like Google search trends, for example. And a lot of the time, we actually end up mapping out our social activities. So what have we spoken about and where, and then looking at the search volumes going through Google. But for Gen Z and for those younger generations where where TikTok, is their predominant search platform as opposed to Google, we need to be able to look at those search volumes on there. Now, TikTok's response in that moment was, when we do that, it will come with basically being able to run paid ads based on search queries. So you'll have the exact same two different options in terms of how you bid and how you plan out your paid media strategies, basing it on search queries as well. So they're trying to kind of copy Meta, copy Google, and come somewhere in between. There's complexities with regards to that. I think one of the other things that they are going to struggle with is that they don't have a lot of text on the platform. Like, you can't do text posts. And one platform that's really benefiting from that at the minute is Reddit. And they've got billions of search queries, and they're also trying to capitalize on the fact that they could do search query based advertising. So I feel like you've got, TikTok is obviously significantly larger in terms of attention than Reddit is, but there's still a huge community and they have billions of search queries. So I'm interested to see the approach that both of these platforms take.
Reddit gets most of its traffic from search.
Yeah,
in
and
the
then
first
so
place.
it's like traffic's from search, and then you search within the platform as well. So
For a
they've got
community.
data. They've got both sets of data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there, but it's interesting, and I would love it if we could get search volume for specific
100%.
queries. It would
Yeah,
make.
yeah. It seems
such a
strange that it's not
difference.
top of their list. If people are going
Well,
for search to,
with all of the platforms, advertising revenue is always their top sort of feature. We know that. So their main focus is getting the search capabilities from a paid perspective in there. They actually removed some capabilities to be able to track keywords in the platform. You can't do that now. You can only track key categories from an organic perspective. And every time we're like, yeah, we can't do this. Like, yeah, you can. And we're like, no, you can do it for paid, but you can't do it for organic. And that's where like the real value comes in when we're looking at like consumer attention.
Mm-hmm.
So it is top of their list, and they kind of took me through like what they're prioritizing, and search is sort of the biggest one. I also sneakily asked them what their thoughts were on the situation in the US, and they were like,
Probably can't give you much.
they just said it was business as usual for us until we
Yeah.
hear anymore, which was interesting.
fair enough.
Yeah. Any other updates that you guys want to chat about? Anything that's gone on this week that's been particularly notable before we get into some controversial topics?
How controversial are we going?
Not that controversial.
No, nothing from my side.
No?
in particular.
Cool.
No.
Nice. All right. So first, we've got a couple sort of campaigns and industry topics, not really updates, but the McDonald's campaign.
Mhm.
Anyone had a look at that? So where they removed the smiley faces from their Happy Meal boxes for Mental Health Awareness Week. Great in terms of the ambition that they've tried to have, but it has been quite polarizing online.
Yeah.
Because there's a little bit of, are we killing children's innocence by doing stuff like this and forcing them to talk about stuff? Would it have been better instead of just removing the smiley face if they did an array of Happy Meal boxes that maybe one had a sad face, one had an angry face, and kind of educating children that it's okay to feel all these emotions and not just having a blank box on there, because that's a little bit ambiguous, where they're maybe not developed enough to really understand that. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what you guys thought of that campaign. Have you seen it?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I saw it because I think Rio Ferdinand is a ambassador for it. Yeah, and that came up in my feed. I think, I mean, it's, I suppose these kind of things are always, you have to go back to what the intent is.
Yes.
It's similar stuff, like, when you get to like Pride Week and stuff like that, like it feels sometimes like brands can just jump on it because it's the thing to do. And how committed and stuff they are, whether it's just more PR. I'm presuming I know McDonald's behind the scenes have so much stuff that they do for charities, and they're massive in sports. Like they've got a lot of foundations and things like that, even in the UK. So it feels like something they should be part of. But also, it does, as much as, you see it from that side of like the innocence of getting children to talk and how you do it. You're also, in a world where health, what we eat, what we consume is so scrutinized, a brand that is technically built on ultra processed food, which has a massive effect on health and well-being, turning around and going, we're supportive of, mental health. Like it kind of feels a bit dirty and just, we'll cover this up and use it as a platform to, and do they really have those? If they really had those values, could you still be serving
That's a very good point.
up Happy Meals every day, which are actually, okay, you can get some sliced carrot in there instead of chips, but the whole premise of what they are is fast, convenient food built around an ultra processed industry, which I think more and more research says it's massively damaging for maturity, like growth, maturing, and all that.
Does that
kind
have
of
a
stuff,
negative impact on mental health itself?
Yeah, exactly.
I hadn't thought of it from that angle. That's really interesting,
but,
actually.
I'm sure it comes from good intentions, but you can't not be
It's always a
grateful
balance, isn't it?
of
people trying to raise awareness and
supporting. But I think it's is it just are they the right brand to do it? I think you've got to be you've got to what's your do you know what I mean? Like, I think in this day and age, what's the brand values really stand for? And as much as they might above the door have a motto, which is, make everyone smile or whatever, you're not doing
what you want.
Do you know, you're
your
still a fast food. Your
core
core
what
is,
it does, I think, is there something in, like, when we have your national weeks, so Mental Health Awareness Week, Pride Week, for example, my personal opinion here, and we can look at the impact of the hashtags and all of that, and from a marketing perspective, my personal perspective is I personally would prefer to see like a brand like that, in the little toys they give away in the Happy Meals, like put like a book in there that's really teaching children, but have that all year round. Like, I don't know. I don't know if sometimes I love the intention behind these weeks. And I think they're really, really important. But if brands only talk about it in that week, does it cheapen the message from them? Because it feels a little bit like greenwashing, but for a different cause.
I suppose it's like, it's what story you're telling, right? Like, I would argue, I don't think you need to be outwardly doing it all the time, because at the end of the day, brands are brands and they have a product and stuff they said. I think it's more being able to properly speak about the fact that potentially over the year you live and breathe what you say.
Yeah.
Putting a rainbow flag or, changing your social icon for a week to celebrate, or get behind it is a nice gesture, but like
having a complete lack of diversity within your business.
Exactly.
If you can't we always say this to clients. So when clients come to us and they go, we want to do Pride Week, we want to do Mental Health Awareness Week, we want to do this, we go, okay, well, can you back it up? Like whatever you put out there, because you are going to get torn apart. No matter how good your intention is, these things are always controversial. No matter how great the intent is behind them, people are going to dig into your business. And particularly if you're publicly traded, they're going to be able to get access to information that they may not otherwise be able to have access to. If you can't back it up with stats and initiatives that you do all year round, then don't do it, because it's disingenuous.
No. Or if you do it, you have to just do it as a light touch. Like, whereas I think people, that's the thing. Like McDonald's, like what a wonderful cause to do, but that's not your brand. Your brand values aren't around mental well. You cannot be. Do you know? Like, it's like being an oil company, but being all about saving the rainforest. It doesn't. They don't. You can't. Like, you can. It's almost a byproduct of, if we do this over here and plant some trees, people will forget that we're doing.
Yeah,
you're still at the core of what you're doing. You're still, whatever, if people
and
see
interestingly,
it back,
in the campaign video, they just showed the box. They didn't show a single piece of food.
No, exactly. Well, exactly.
Because they couldn't.
Yeah.
But I think my thing with it was, I completely agree with that point, was it had all these like, and I don't know if maybe I'm more naive, or maybe like society and social media is like, kids are more complex than maybe they were 20 years ago, but there's all these children on there kind of talking about how complex their emotions are and the range of like feelings that they have and stuff. And I was like, I didn't feel like this as a kid. Like, I like, have we, is that have we just been naive to that and not acknowledged that, and now kids are just able to be more honest about their feelings and stuff, or have we made them so almost too aware in certain instances? I don't know. This is a completely different topic than we're talking about this podcast.
I mean, you'd probably have to get some parents on here that have children of that age. Look, I've got nieces around, in their teens and stuff. And I think sometimes when I speak to them about what they're exposed to at school and the conversations they're having, is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know. Like, I'm not there yet with my son, so but I think it's hard. Like, there is a deeper cause to it. On the flip side, though, of everything I've said, to contradict it, if they had produced an advert which was like, creatively speaking, a separated family, and mum or dad picks up the child and goes to McDonald's, and they buy them a Happy Meal, and they sit down and they talk, and they have a special bond and a moment together, and the slogan is like, where conversations start, or something, ridiculous like that, we'd probably all be going, give it awards. Like, isn't it amazing that they've tapped into this emotional moment? And that's in itself the same principle of, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's just, you're always sitting one way or another. My point being is, you're always sitting one way or another, which is, you can see why they do it. You can see the intent and probably when they've all sat around and gone, yeah, this is a good thing for us to do. But then, like you say, the execution of what people are exposed to, and go, well, underneath it all, I think we're probably so exposed to like marketing and stories now. We are maybe slightly cynical and always questioning like what the value, does that really run within your values?
And we work in marketing.
Well,
yeah,
exactly.
The other challenge.
Yeah.
Do we have a
biased view when we look at things? Yeah, very true.
Compared to
Next one is the YouTube CEO is saying it's time for the Emmys to embrace creators. So we've got Neil Mohan. He's done a guest column for The Hollywood Reporter. And so he's basically saying that, the Emmys and other more traditional award ceremonies in the entertainment industry should be embracing creators on YouTube, and I guess creators in general, basically. How do we feel?
Personally, I have to agree.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately for people on TV, they get less viewership than these creators on YouTube. As Mr. Beast sometimes says, he gets 200 million views per video. How can anyone on sort of TV compete against that when I'm looking to sell, ad segments and placements within my video? I'm just, the amount of views is unbelievable, and the sort of team required from that is full production houses. They've got even probably larger scale productions than some TV shows. So,
see, I think you'll have a different opinion on this.
Well, I agree. I think they should be awarded in some way, but it's a different category.
But it's like the reality category that they have at the Emmys, for example. Would they have their own like creator categories and stuff?
But I think, but the Emmys is what, TV and film? Is it TV? Mostly TV,
I think it's
isn't
mostly
it?
TV.
So you're talking about episodic storytelling most of the time. It's a completely different art form to, getting 10 of your mates who can stand in this box for
though?
like.
Is it like
for 2 days, or who takes their finger off this?
We see on YouTube now, you can buy TV shows and films on YouTube. Like, people are going to there's like one-stop entertainment shop, and if you think
that's different in terms of creator versus
my thing would be like, it's a different. Some of them could, but how many YouTubers, creators could write a TV show? I agree to your point. You can't compete with the viewership and what people are getting. It's a different. I think there should probably be categories for it, which is like, you create a game show style content. Like, that is a original idea and stuff like that. But putting them into the same category as Emmys and Oscars and films, like, I just think that's where
okay, fair.
I get that. So maybe like an award show that is completely separate. has as much credibility in some aspect. It's just for a different.
But I suppose it's hard. Maybe what he's arguing is, they say if they do the shorties and YouTube awards and things like that, they're probably not. They're recognised within a community of, you know, I'm Mr. Beast. I've won 82 shorties. I'm Adam Ward. I've won an Oscar.
History behind it as well.
You go, oh, okay, you've won an Oscar.
So basically, what he's saying is that creators are defining a new era of entertainment, and they deserve the same acclaim as other creative professionals. And like, if we look at media spend, like, this is the first year that digital has fully overtaken TV in terms of where people are putting their budget, and so that then makes us look at it and think, what is the future of entertainment? You know, we've had the writer's strike for a reason and stuff like that, and there's been all this stuff kind of going on. And I do think there is, you know, digital creators compared to creative professionals like actors and stuff like that. There's like a little bit like a kind of look down on digital creators a little bit, I would say. Like, it's not at the same.
Yeah. I think it's because it's a different art form. It is different. Like, you are, like, as an actor, you are spending time
else.
being and you're telling you're maybe recreating, so you're getting people to buy into a story and a narrative and emotion, like getting people to engage on an emotional level, and that's what's awarded, is the ability to create.
Yeah, it's different, you're right.
Whereas I get the principles of why they should be awarded for creating content and all the great things they do, and you know, that side of it, but it's a different. I
think so I get it, and I agree, the one thing that contradicts that is the fact that there is a reality category in there, because the reality shows are basically doing the same thing in terms of they're being themselves, they're learning how to be the most entertaining version of themselves, and then they're putting that out there. So I think it is very similar. Like, even if we look at now the new version of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, it's actually very similar in terms of the filming style. That's what we'll see in some YouTubers.
Yeah. YouTubers are more talented than reality stars.
Definitely.
Oh, God.
But okay then. So that would be a category of,
yes.
If the YouTubers if they made a series in the same style as a Kardashians or whatever, and that, you know, Desperate Housewives, not that, you know, Real Housewives of whatever, I think then there is an argument to say, yes, okay, we can review it and see if they sit in with that, because that you're right, like, you can have different styles of filming reality, but in overall, like, you can't. They're new categories though within that. What you creating categories for, like best prank show, that's not what the Emmys is about, and that feels like it's from a different environment too.
Yeah. I think it'll be, though, like, reality TV was looked upon as like dirty, and maybe still is a little bit whenever you look at sort of traditional creative professionals in that area, and it's just the same cycle. Do you know what I mean? It's a newer art form. It's a different type of thing. I don't think they ever, for the point that you made, the fact that if you're an actor, you are portraying something else, you are morphing yourself into something, that is a different skill set.
Yeah.
I almost feel like it's the difference between, like, if you're a digital creator, you're also, like, probably very savvy in terms of, like, your marketing skill set and your ability to, like, understand analytics and stuff, because you need that in order to optimize something.
Yeah.
Whereas an actor is a true creative professional. Like, it's different, isn't it?
I mean, maybe if you go through criterias, there might be, I don't know all the categories for the Emmys. I think acting and stuff like that is very separate, but there must be certain areas where you can understand his point if he's looking at it from, like, I don't know, if there's one for like best news show or something like that. If somebody day in, day out is doing on YouTube a news format show, maybe there is an argument for it to sit in there, or if they are, you know. But I think the like, it's defining what the formats. I don't think there's any place for someone who does a pretty standard, you know, vlog to be competing with.
No, they would have to have, like, their own category.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's also like, what's the judging criteria? Are you judging it on viewership, or are you judging it on the art?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, different things.
It's whether specific creator awards in 10, 20 years' time will be held on a pedestal, you know, just as much as something like an Emmy, or will it actually surpass the waiting in the future in terms of awards?
Right, it's been quite a controversial podcast today. We've had a lot going
Yeah.
on. Anything that you guys would like to add?
No,
No?
covered it all.
Oh, fabulous. Well, thank you for joining and thank you for listening. This will be out again next Monday morning to get you ready for the week ahead so you can hear industry updates and our opinions, sometimes controversial. So please keep listening. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you all next week.
See you next week.
Bye.